Hi, everyone. Welcome to this latest episode of the Jisc Tech Takes podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Ewan Lennett. I'm one of our internal communications officers. Very pleased to be joined by Ben Chapman, who's our head of architecture and engineering today, to discuss all things security conference, which we are currently in the middle of in the Manchester Central Convention Centre. So first up, Ben, hi. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Ewan.
Thank you very much for joining us. So coming to the end of the event today, 2 days in the middle of November in Manchester. How has it been for you? Assuming a bit of a whirlwind.
Yeah, absolute whirlwind, and they always are, especially in any form of, leadership position or supporting Jisc. The conference is the biggest thing of the year for us, and we're always striving to, make it better than last time.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because I was here last year in Newport, and it's been amazing to see how much of a step up, which last year was a great event over in the Newport.
It was, yeah.
Well.
It was, so that was 3 years that we had run Newport. And it was nice to do somewhere or be somewhere different here in Manchester. But, the feeling is the same. The people, the excitement, the things that people are wanting to talk about remain consistent. Cyber essentials continues to be a massive topic. Things that we need to be worrying about in the future, like post-quantum computing. God, that was an eye-opening session that was earlier yesterday afternoon. There is still so much that we have to do, or we're never finished. We're never finished.
Sure. So talking more broadly about the conference as a whole, what are the biggest aims for you when it comes to sort of pulling a program together when we're talking about all the keynotes and our community spaces, our lightning talks, and stuff like this, our podcast recording?
I would say the things that are most important, right? The demographics, right? We can't run a session, can't run a conference that it only aims for one type of person, an engineer or a manager or a leader or an interested party. We have to run it in a way that has coverage for everybody. And trying to hit the right message to the right people and ensuring that the topic, the strapline, the description, the title is hitting those keywords so that people know which sessions might be relevant to them. And that is always a challenge.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the program over the course of the last few days, it's incredible seeing the spread of people from all organizations across, not just, the UK, but the world as well. For instance, we've got people coming up from Microsoft. We've got colleges, obviously higher education and research institutions as well. And it's been really positive and powerful to see how effective bringing everyone together in that shared space to discuss such a broad and vast topic has been.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been at Jisc for 17 years. Man and boy, I think is the phrase. And we have, and the funny thing is, I've got loads of people around me in the membership that I have seen throughout that whole time that have clearly done the same thing. You started maybe in some other position and you hopefully have gradually worked your way up. And that's the bit that is interesting, is that that must mean that they have had, experience of, being the person on the ground or whatever, and then the person that is now perhaps trying to help people do or achieve the same within their organization. And so we must have similar topics or messages or concerns. And so when I speak to someone that I met, maybe a long time ago, and they used to do this, that, or the other, it's nice to see them again and talk about what we used to do and then what we're trying to do now, and that they're bound to be the same.
Yeah, and sharing those stories as well.
Absolutely. Your stories are the best.
Of course, yeah. And obviously people that you're familiar with as well. But it's not just those stories on sort of the ground level. It's actually getting people to discuss cyber incidents that they've been through and how they've been impacted and how they've worked around that and actually got themselves back on their feet.
Yep. And that they're, now the ones not having to solve the incident, but having to lead people for an incident. That's the bit that can be significantly different to being on the ground, to leading people through that kind of change.
No, of course. Putting you on the spot somewhat.
Okay.
A couple of highlights from the last 2 days. What's really stood out to you?
Okay. Cyber Essentials session, I think must have had a record number of questions. And while we always expect lots of questions, and we always expect more questions when there's a question set change, we haven't had, this is still something that we've all been doing cyber essentials for a long time. The number of questions continues to be a lot. We're all still trying to work out how we make cyber essentials fit our business without necessarily disrupting the business, but while being involved in cyber essentials, while accepting it as being a valuable and important part of running your business. You must do cyber essentials. There's no other message to be spread there. The bit that we have to work out is how you make it work and how you structure your business and how you lead and bring the people with you. You must bring the people with you to be able to make those changes. You can't just say, we're doing cyber essentials. You've got to bring people with you, whether that's your boss or whether it's the staff involved or those that are going to get assessed or audited or something if you're going for CE+. So that was fascinating. And I actually really applaud IASME who were here, who continue to be open about, that it's not perfect, but it is instilling change.
Yeah, of course.
I really enjoyed the first keynote.
Yeah.
It was a fun and interesting and challenging set of point of view. If you only look at your estate, if you only think about your bit, you might only see your world like this. And Jonathan was able to bring in a whole perspective of maybe a national consideration. And that's fascinating. While Jisc has national considerations, we may well consider just the academic section. So this was, almost a national or a global or a political view of the estate or cybersecurity. And that was really interesting too.
Fantastic. So more broadly talking about security.
Yep.
Now we're in this kind of state where people are understanding that security as a whole overall thing when it comes to HEFE and research is not just sort of the macro issues, the micro issues that come involved in that. How do you feel awareness and preparation and cyber, how prepared and assured they are to actually deal with cyber incidents? How do you feel that awareness is picking up and how well prepared organizations are for attacks and incidents?
I'm unfortunately of the opinion that being having had an incident is probably the fastest or best way to progress your cybersecurity.
Which is a very brutal way of having to learn.
Really brutal way to learn. And, throwing in the deep end, that kind of phrase.
Yeah.
However, that's not a good way of running your business. You don't run your business jumping through risk. You run a risk assessment and you mitigate and make improvements to your business to prevent that from happening. And that is the message that is starting to progress and is making a difference. And I'm noticing, the big boys are being compromised now. And that we've got to learn from them. And so I think there's also an element of maybe some of those larger organizations that have our incidents, if they are being open about their incident and how they have learnt, then maybe we can learn from that too. And not just the message of, buy this technology or buy that technology or whatever. We're in this together, we share that information and we all get better at it.
No, of course. So jumping ahead a little bit far ahead, thinking about Security Conference 2026.
Oh, yep.
What would you say for anyone watching that might be on the fence about attending or might be questioning whether or not they'll get some use out of it? What would you say are the key reasons that people should be coming to this conference if they're in HEFE or research?
Okay, I can think of a couple of things. You have a responsibility in your business, whether you're executive or a technician, to defend, protect your estate. Whether that is computers, physical, or locks in the door, you have a responsibility to support your business in that. This is a great place to come and find out that you're not the only person facing whatever it is that you think you can or can't achieve this year or next year or over the next 5 years to enable you to make out any of those improvements.
Yeah.
We have, while it might be that the risk of cyber security is at the board level, everybody has a responsibility to be involved. This is a great place to talk about that.
Yeah, the impact is truly global, and
it really is. Yeah, and while one college might have an incident, and we feel for them, and we want to do it, we don't want to be part of that statistic. No one wants to be part of that statistic. One college still affects colleges or university. Maybe it could be me. Maybe education is a softer target or whatever. I don't believe that. I don't think that people are really targeting specific places necessarily, but they are certainly, a lot of it is a numbers game. But if we're seen to be soft, then that's not a good message. And so we have a responsibility across the board, ourselves included, to be as on the front foot as possible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's about all I've got for you, Ben. So thank you very much for chatting.
My pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
Yep.
And everyone, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the Jisc Tech Takes podcast. I've been Ewan Leonard. This has been Ben Chapman, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.